Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Din, and I am the Executive Director for PIA President 2021. We are so excited for all the PIing and fundraising that's about to happen over the next 24 hours. For anyone who doesn't know, PIA President is an annual event hosted by Texas Alpha Epsilon Delta, or Texas AED. We are a pre-health professional honor society at the University of Texas at Austin. Our organization helps prepare undergraduate students for professional school, whether that be medical school, dental school, PA school, and so on, while also having various volunteer and social opportunities for our members. In addition to having guest speakers, workshops, panels, and professional school tours, our members volunteer across the Austin community at medical centers around campus, including Dell Seton and Dell Children's Medical Center. PIA President is typically held at Gregory Gym Plaza at the beginning of April. It's a day where thousands of UT students come together to PIE their student organization presidents and officers, and even UT faculty members. All the money that we raise at PIA President, in addition to our year-long fundraising, goes towards Operation KidDocs. Some of the year-long fundraising we typically do includes canning, volunteer events, and pledge project. Each semester, our new members make up the pledge class for that semester. Each pledge class completes a pledge project, which is essentially a series of fundraising projects led by the pledge committee to raise money for Operation KidDocs. Operation KidDocs, previously known as Dell Children's Surgical Global Outreach of Central Texas, is a volunteer medical group based in Austin. Their mission is to promote and provide excellent surgical care to disadvantaged children all across the world. They strive to provide surgical services to children of other countries whose access to surgical care is limited due to the resources or financial constraints, remote location, governmental or cultural barriers, or a variety of other medical or societal problems. In addition to direct surgical care, Operation KidDocs provides educational resources to local physicians, nurses, and other healthcare providers. The very first medical trip that Operation KidDocs took, and the trip that Texas AED funds every year, is the one to the Moore Center in Guatemala. The Moore Pediatric Surgery Center is a center in Guatemala that Operation KidDocs regularly works out of when they go on these trips. They are funded by the Shalom Foundation, which fundraises for many groups who go on similar medical trips. All surgeries out of the Moore Center are free of charge for the patients, and many of them hear about it by social media or by word of mouth. Because Operation KidDocs works out of the Moore Center, they do not displace local healthcare providers from their jobs when they go on these trips. They assist the healthcare providers who already work there and even allow medical students in the area to watch and learn about their techniques. Other groups that work out of the Moore Center are Austin Smiles, Vanderbilt University, and Nashville Dental. So how did Operation KidDocs begin? So in 2011, a group of physicians, nurses, surgical technicians, and other healthcare providers working at Dell Children's Medical Center were determined that they wanted to help children who were not as fortunate as the ones who walked through the doors of their hospital. At the time, they partnered with the Shalom Foundation, and the group gathered the enormous inventory of supplies and personnel necessary to operate in Guatemala to set out on their first trip to the Moore Pediatric Surgery Center in Guatemala City. They were able to help 60 kids on their first trip with a variety of general surgical treatments. The huge smiles and expressions of appreciation from the kids and their families after receiving surgery had a powerful impact on the group to do more. From that moment on, Operation KidDocs was committed to providing surgical care to children in Guatemala. As the wheels began turning, Operation KidDocs resorted to different fundraising methods to fund their trips. Through the philanthropy of country music star George Strait, local individual supporters, and of course, Texas AED, they were able to put together the supplies and staffing for 2 trips a year to Guatemala. New physician volunteers gradually began to join the team, and many surgical specialties were added, including orthopedic surgery, plastic surgery, hand surgery, and general surgery. They have teamed up with local Guatemalan physicians and surgeons to make sure that appropriate follow-up care is provided and to ensure that their surgical outcomes are as good as they would have been in the United States. Since their first trip in 2011, Operation KidDocs has helped over 1,000 kids receive the care that they need. Working with the staff of the Moore Center, they have developed a first-class surgical center in this underserved region. The educational activities Operation KidDocs also provides to these local physicians, students, and healthcare providers is helping to build a more sustainable healthcare system. While the bulk of their work has been at the Moore Center, Operation KidDocs continues to explore other opportunities in other countries to help with the surgical care of children. Like I previously mentioned, prior to 2017, the group was known as Dell Children's Surgical Global Outreach. As their ranks grew and a larger administrative and fundraising structure was needed, they established a relationship with the Austin Community Foundation. This move enabled them to utilize the tools and educational assets of the Austin Community Foundation to make the group stronger and financially secure. In 2019, the group rebranded to Operation KidDocs and have worked hard to grow their web presence and improve upon their fundraising efforts, adding additional non-medical community members to their board to help with outreach and development. For 10 years now, Texas AED has supported Operation KidDocs in their endeavors. I'll pass the mic over to our logistics chair now, but I can't wait to see all the amazing things we accomplish over these next few days for these kids.
Hi everyone, my name is Prati, the Logistics Chair for PI President 2021. Over the course of these next 3 days, we have planned for you a series of games, performances, giveaways, and of course, pieing, all towards fundraising for Operation KidDocs. To kick off our event today, we will hear from our Operation KidDocs speaker, Megan Roberts, PA, so you can learn more about where your donations are going and more about the medical trips from an Operation KidDocs board member herself. Tomorrow is filled with a number of live game show games and fun segments to keep you entertained, and you'll get to see your favorite organizations and presidents participate in activities that may or may not get them pied. For the student organization members and Texas AED members participating, you have the chance to win one of 7 gift baskets throughout the day. Our first gift basket is a movie night gift basket that consists of popcorn, assorted movie candy, the comfy blanket sweatshirt, and a popcorn maker. Our second basket is the houseplant gift basket that comes with a ceramic plant holder, potting soil, a watering can, a mini succulent, and flower seeds. The third basket is a fitness gift basket that comes with a yoga ball, a yoga mat, a jump rope, and a water bottle. We also have a charcuterie gift basket with a wooden paddleboard, dip bowls, cheese knives, and reusable wine stoppers. Our fifth basket is a self-care basket with another comfy blanket sweatshirt, sheet masks, a clay mask, and a scented candle. Our sixth basket is a baking gift basket with cake pans, a rolling pin, a whisk, and piping tips. Finally, for our seventh gift basket, we have an arts and crafts basket with a sketchbook, a watercolor set, a Prismacolor hand lettering set, and a Prismacolor colored pencil set. If you're part of a student organization participating in PI President, for a chance to win these gift baskets, you must purchase a pie by Venmoing at Texas AED $3 to pie your president, or you can fundraise $3 using our provided graphics. For every $3 pie purchase or $3 fundraised equals 1 entry to win a gift basket. If you're a member of AED, every $50 raised for the entire year is equal to 1 entry to win a gift basket. On Saturday, the final day of PI President, we will be doing a total reveal in which we reveal how much we were able to fundraise for Operation KidDocs throughout the year with your guys' help. We hope to see you follow along PI President with us for these next 3 days, and now to hear more from our fundraising chairs.
My name is Zihan.
Hi, my name is Sky, and we are the fundraising chairs for PIA President 2021. We are here to announce our first fundraising challenge of this event, Build My Surgical Team.
Operation KidDocs takes the trip to Guatemala twice a year, once in the fall and again in the spring. Before the COVID-19 pandemic hit, the last trip Operation KidDocs took was in November of 2019. During this trip, they took a team of 27 people.
The team consisted of 8 physicians, specifically 2 orthopedic surgeons, 2 anesthesiologists, 1 plastic surgeon, 1 pediatrician, 1 orthopedic resident, and 1 retired pediatric anesthesiologist, 8 registered nurses or RNs, 4 certified scrub technicians or CSTs, 3 certified registered nurse anesthetists or CRNAs, 1 physician assistant or PA, 1 surgical technician, 1 photographer, and 1 undergraduate volunteer.
During the trip Operation KidDocs takes in May, the undergraduate volunteer is a member of the Texas Alpha Epsilon Delta who received the Operation KidDocs scholarship. The member that gets selected gets to go on this trip with the Operation KidDocs team to see firsthand the impact our fundraising efforts and the work of these healthcare providers have on the community.
In November of 2019, this team carried Operation KidDocs mission to Antigua and performed a total of 87 surgeries across 4 days. Because of this team, kids in Guatemala were able to receive free, life-saving surgeries that would help them have long and healthy childhoods.
Many of the healthcare providers who went on this last trip have taken the trip to Guatemala since Operation KidDocs began. We want to dedicate this fundraising challenge to each and every one of these providers who volunteered their time to treat these kids without pay and committing to this cause out of the goodness of their hearts.
We challenge the members of Texas AED to raise $25 in honor of these providers and the work they've done for Operation KidDocs over the years. Scan the QR code on this slide to access our templates and graphics to help you in your fundraising.
We're also excited to announce that our first fundraising challenge incentive. For every fundraising challenge we will have 2 incentives, one for our PIA President leadership team and one for our Spring 2021 pledge class.
For our leadership team, the first person to clear their fundraising graphic will receive a $20 matching gift from an anonymous donor. To win this matching gift, you must tag us at PIA President on Instagram when you have completed your graphic.
For our Spring 2021 pledge class, the first person to raise $50 in the next hour will receive a $50 matching gift from an anonymous donor. Here's a tip. Scan the QR code to access our templates to make fundraising asks to better your chances at winning this matching gift.
Just a reminder, if you receive any donations via Venmo from using our fundraising graphics, be sure to Venmo your total to @TexasAED so that it can get transferred to your classy fundraising page.
We're so excited to see all the fundraising that's about to happen. If you have any questions or concerns regarding fundraising, email us at piapresident@texasaed.org. See everyone soon.
All right. Okay, cool. Hello everyone. So I'm just going to go ahead and introduce our guest speaker today. Today we have Megan Roberts, PA. She is an Operation KidDocs board member. We're super excited to have her with us. She was previously at our Operation KidDocs panel just about a month ago. But today she's going to share with us her experiences in Guatemala and kind of just what like her experience entails in terms of being a board member and a volunteer. So Megan, if you want to just kick it off, and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. This is a little bit of a new experience for me, so bear with me. But I'm so happy to be here speaking to you guys, and I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to represent Operation KidDocs, which is an organization that is super near and dear to my heart. If you guys have ever seen me talk before, you know a little bit about me. My name is Megan. My day job is doing pediatric orthopedic trauma at Dell Children's. I joined Operation KidDocs as a board member in the summer of 2019 after going on the spring 2019 trip, which is the one I'm going to be talking about today. It has been such a great experience and something that I've really enjoyed. A lot of people ask what my official title is, and I have a self-nominated title. I call myself an enthusiastic helper, and I believe in it, and you guys will see proof of that during my presentation today. I just want to make sure I cover a couple of things for you guys, just so you know. I will be showing photos of actual patients that we treated on the trip, and I want everybody to be aware that I do have consent for those photos, and those patients were very gracious in letting us use them for any of our educational or promotional talks, and I just hope you guys are as touched by their stories as I am. My presentation, I'm looking to run about 35 to 45 minutes, just so you guys know what to expect. It's only photos. This is just a very informal conversation. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm sure some of the people who are a little bit more versed in Discord will be able to help out with that. But I'm happy to be interrupted at any time if there's something you want to know a little bit more about. If you want to go to the next slide. So first off, talking a little bit about AED. First off, anybody in AED, we are so grateful to you. I cannot underscore enough the contributions that you guys make to our organization. I know Chris had asked to help put into perspective a little bit kind of contextualize what your donations do for us, and to really kind of give you an idea of how helpful they are. With every trip that we go on, we have to bring all of the supplies and the manpower that we need in order to do the surgeries that we do for a week. But in addition to every trip all the supplies that we take, we always make a $10,000 donation to the Moore Center, which is the hospital that we do all of our surgeries in. And that donation covers the overhead costs, literally the electricity bills. It covers the salaries for the people who help clean and turn over the rooms for the patients in the operating rooms. It helps supply an x-ray tech for us. It helps feed and house the families and the patients that we treat. It helps set up social services and gives us a social worker to help connect patients to those social services. And so that donation is huge. And you guys know how much you donate to us every year. And to say that AED is literally helping us keep the lights on in the hospital would be an absolutely true statement. So every time we have a board meeting, you guys are brought up with complimentary comments, and we're just so grateful and in awe of you guys. To share a little funny anecdote, we did our very best effort at having a fundraiser, and we thought we did a pretty good job by raising a modest amount of money, and we were all sending emails back and forth to congratulate ourselves, and Chris literally emailed us that same day, and it was a quick email that just said, hey, heads up, our projections are that we raised this much for you. To tell you that he added 2 zeros to the amount that we raised would be an understatement. And my literal next email was, well, that took the wind right out of my sails. So it is huge. And y'all are doing things that we self-admittedly could not. So we cannot be more grateful to you. But in addition, we get the benefit of this symbiotic relationship, which is really cool because I know that a couple of you have reached out to me and I've gotten to speak to a couple of people. I hope Danielle and Emily are out there. Hey, ladies. But I mean, we just love talking about you guys. And I think the actual term is that we stan you guys. And I mean, I just hope that we have this relationship for many years to come. We're very grateful. Let's go to the next slide. So I want to just kind of take everybody on a trip. This trip in the spring of 2019 was to Guatemala City, Guatemala, which is the main site that we do our mission trips to. I went on the trip at the end of April to the beginning of May. I want to do two things with this presentation. One is kind of give you an impression of what it feels like to actually be on one of these trips, but another one is kind of disavow you to what Hollywood has painted international medicine to look like. You know, the idea of this rugged person with a beard who jumps off a moving helicopter with one backpack and 1,000 pairs of LL Bean clothes. I mean, it's just not really what it is. It's so much more, and it's actually so much better than that. And so I hope that this inspires you. I hope that this lights a little match in everybody, and hopefully gets people interested in international medicine, because it's a super rewarding passion. So let's go ahead and go to the next one. So these are two pictures of our supplies management. Essentially, the one on the left is Dr. Williams in what he calls our shiny new storage unit. I spend pretty much one Saturday a month in there with him, just chipping away at that absolute mountain of supplies. And if there's any doubt as to my title as an enthusiastic helper, I don't know if you can tell, but being the dance mom that I am laying on the floor, the dirty floor of the hallway in the middle of the storage unit to get a photo of Dr. Williams, because he wanted it to show the scale. So that's how we got that photo. To the right is actually Wanda, beautiful Wanda. She is our surgical tech at Dell Children's, and she squirrels away a bunch of unused surgical supplies. And bless her heart, she packs those bags. Each of those duffel bags comes up over my hip bone. They're about 40 to 50 pounds each, and we have all lost several toenails to them. Those are the bags that we carry our supplies in, and we carry everything that we need for the OR. We carry our own surgical kits with implantable hardware if we need plates or screws. We carry drapes, we carry gloves, we carry suture, we carry everything. Believe it or not, we actually carry our own meds, which is kind of a trippy story. Dr. Porter is a retired anesthesiologist, and he gets donations for like the propofol and fentanyl. Unbeknownst to me, on our last trip, they accidentally tagged his bag with my name, and Guatemala is very strict about having you go through with your specific bag. So that was the day that I unknowingly became an international drug smuggler. So it's okay, it worked out, it was fine. But Dr. Porter gave me his bag, and I had to walk it through customs, sweating bullets. And at the end, he came up to me, and anybody who talks to Dr. Porter knows that he has a very soft Southern accent. And I didn't know if it was his personal bag or his medicine bag, but he came up to me afterwards, and I said, "Was that the drug bag?" And he just looks me square in the eyes and goes, "I think it's best you don't know," and walked off. So that was me dabbling in international drug smuggling. We can go to the next slide. So our actual facility, this is our facility, the Moore Center. So every day we pull into a building that is surrounded by a huge stone fence with security. I kid you not, the bus is 12 feet wide, and the entrance into the gate is 12 feet and 6 inches. I have no idea how we get in, but every day everybody takes a deep suck in of air as we try to wedge ourselves into this parking lot. We enter through this door, which has a beautiful mural on it, and you walk right into the courtyard. If you see that arch in the back, that's where our waiting room is, and we can house 75 to 100 patients in there. On the left, you see a bunch of windows. Those are windows into our patient rooms, so that's where patients sleep at night. And then that yellow box at the top is actually where our ORs are. We have 3 ORs, and those windows stare directly into our sterilization room. And the person's taking the photo is standing almost in the stairwell that goes up to a courtyard, and we'll do the next photo. The next slide. And then this is looking down on top of the courtyard. So that's where we take our meals, and then the locker rooms are to the left. And that's just kind of a nice area where we sit and we kind of decompress. We actually like to climb up onto the roof after we get done with our cases and just kind of look out over the skyline. It's actually a really impressive skyline, but unfortunately there was a lot of smog that day. And what you can't see in the distance, we thought was kind of funny, is a literal volcano. There's actually a volcano right there. You just can't see it. And then you go to the next slide. And then this is just kind of a unique view of the Guatemala neighborhood that's right next to the clinic that I thought was kind of special. And those colors are just everywhere. Those purples and teals and yellows and lime greens. It's just such an interesting color palette. Do the next slide. So the kids do little crafts in the clinic. So it's decorated really beautifully. They use a lot of soda bottles. Just like every other developing country, soda's huge there. Any kind of sugary snack is huge there. So the kids save all the little bottle caps and make murals out of them, or they turn them into succulent planters, which are actually really special and very sweet. It does not feel like a sterile clinic environment like you see here in the States. The next one. So all of our clinics, or all of our weeks start off with a screening day. And so the screening day, typically, we have 5 different clinics throughout the day. Each clinic is about an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and 20 minutes. And we typically see between 10 and 15 patients in each clinic. And like I said, we have 5 clinics throughout the day. And what we do is we see a bunch of patients, we decide which surgeries we want to do, and we write them on little slips. And then we go into a conference room and we start organizing the slips to decide which surgeries are going to go on which days. And we start trying to space them out. And then when we're done booking surgeries, that's it. We're done booking surgeries. So that's kind of how we get our surgical schedule throughout the day. On the left side, that's actually my boss, Dr. Hilton Gottschalk, in the purple shirt. He is an upper extremity specialist. And then my best 60-year-old friend is sitting right next to him. That's Dr. John Williams. This little patient in between them is so precious. A lot of these kids come in and their parents will either dress them in traditional Guatemalan clothing, or they will literally stop at Goodwill and buy suits, like child-sized wool suits, and put them in suits. Because just like any other person in the world, they were taught the same thing, that first impressions matter. And they think that by dressing up their kids that we're more likely to do surgery on them, which is a little bit heartbreaking. But makes for some really cute kids too, because there are lots of kids who come in with their little bow ties on. And we usually tell them, like, please take the bow tie off. This is not an air-conditioned building. They're gonna die. They're gonna get too hot. And then you can see on the side just how crowded it gets. And that right there is Dr. Porter walking down the hall. I don't know if y'all recognize him. He's the sweetest man. We can do the next slide. And this is Dr. Combs. We split up into 2 separate rooms. He gets his own room. He is sitting next to his translator. And then the woman that you see standing up is one of the pediatricians. We pair with the pediatricians in Guatemala who help us screen the patients. So every patient sees a surgeon from our organization, a pediatrician, and a Guatemalan pediatrician, one from our organization, and then one of the local pediatricians. And then they also see our anesthesiology team. So the kids undergo a pretty significant screening process to be chosen for surgery. Next one. And then this is our room. So you can see Dr. Gottschalk standing next to Carlos Navas, who is one of the orthopedic surgeons in Guatemala, who absolutely became one of my best friends, and is seriously one of the best parts about going on these trips is you get to meet people who do similar jobs to you and talk to them about what their training looked like and how it was different. He told me all about going to medical school in Guatemala, and it's just such an interesting story. But essentially, he grew up learning Spanish. He had to learn English because all of the textbooks that they use are old United States medical textbooks. So he had to learn English to be able to read English and Latin. And then he has to translate all of that back to Spanish because everybody they work with speaks Spanish. I mean, it's just incredible, the hurdles that you don't think about other people having to go through. And then up in the right corner, you can see Dr. Williams and I screening one of the patients, and we're looking at her lower leg. She probably has some sort of contraction deformity or something like that. Do the next slide. And then this is kind of how we run our consultations. Dr. Navas actually knows every single one of the patients that comes through these clinics, and he's the one who screens them and picks them for us. And he's actually in constant communication with us throughout the year. We hear from him about once a week. And we help him stage procedures. We help him decide which patients are appropriate for the clinic. And then he brings different things to us saying, what do we think about this versus this operation and things like that. So he's a really great partner in all of this. And then they're looking at a kid who has developmental dysplasia of the hip. We're going to do the next slide. So just kind of talking, I'm going to give you all three kind of common things that we see. So these kids both have congenital abnormalities. The one on the left, if you kind of look at him, he has some facial abnormalities, which kind of puts him in the category of being syndromic. And I'm specifically looking at the widened forehead, the widened bridge of the nose, the abnormal upper lip, and then how low his ears are. That tells me that there's something going on there. And then you can see the congenital deformities of the hand. So I would suspect this kid has something called VACTERL. And VACTERL is an acronym for a couple of different congenital abnormalities that occur because of delay at a certain period of gestation. And so these kids typically have anal atresia, if not esophageal atresia. They can have hand abnormalities, vertebral abnormalities, cardiac abnormalities. So that's why we kind of clue into that syndrome. So we know to look for other things. This girl on the right has arthrogryposis, and we actually see a lot of arthrogrypotic patients in Guatemala. And arthrogryposis is multi-involvement or multi-joint involvement spastic contractures. And it can happen for a variety of different reasons, either developmental or neuromuscular. But you can see that this girl preferentially rests with her arms extended and then her wrist flexed. And then you can see us checking the range of motion of her lower extremities. But that kind of arms extended and hands down position is her resting position. Go to the next slide. And then this is clubfoot. We see a ton of clubfoot. And so the picture on the left is an older girl who has bilateral club feet, which were either not treated or suboptimally treated and recurred. And then on the right here, this is another kid who has a unilateral club foot. And this is really a really great photo if you haven't seen club foot before, because you see the normal foot in the background and you see the development of that calf. You see that the foot, they're able to get the heel on the ground, a normal arch of the foot, and then a nice flat foot. But that club foot that's in the front, you can see that club foot is a down and inward kind of shape, has a downward and inward shape to the foot. And there's a couple of different components to that foot that you have to very methodically correct when you're trying to correct it when they're babies. But you can also see that atrophy of the gastrocs and just the atrophy of the lower extremity in general. And then you see those really thick calluses on the lateral border because that's the weight-bearing surface of the foot. The way that we treat this in the United States is that photo underneath that's called Ponseti casting. And it's serial casting, typically done in the first 6 months of life. And it's usually a 4 to 6 cast progression where you actually correct one component of the deformity each time you put on a cast. It's usually very well tolerated. Ideally, we would be able to do a club foot clinic where we would be able to teach people how to apply these casts, and this wouldn't be an issue anymore. This is so uncommon in the States that total clubfoot reconstruction surgeries aren't really even taught anymore. And so there's a lot of new residents that really just don't even know how to do them. So it's kind of a special treat to be able to see those surgeries on these trips. We'll do the next slide. And then another one of the most common and kind of the last one I'm going to talk about, things that we see is developmental dysplasia of the hip. I picked this slide in particular because this child needs both hips operated on, and you can see that one has already been operated on, and now there's another, we're going to do the other side this time. And so the operation, to make a long story short, entails taking a piece of bone out of the hip and then putting it into the femur to change the angle of the femoral head. And then we do some lengthenings of the muscles to help kind of force those femoral heads into an advantageous positioning so that the acetabulum or the cup of the hip forms the way that we want it to. And so you can see one side has already been done and we're trying to do the other side, and you can see how displaced that femur is on that x-ray. I'm going to do next slide. So when we're doing our screening, the OR staff is up in the ORs doing setup. And so you can see they're unpacking all of those bags, getting everything set up, which I think would be an absolutely huge project. But they usually get it done in about half a day, which is amazing for them. Do the next slide. And then our recovery nurses set up their room. You can tell this is the fun room because that's where all the toys are. But this is where the kids go when they're waking up from surgery. And our recovery nurses kind of help wake them up, make sure that they're safe, and then transport them down to see their families. Do the next one. And then afterwards, they get to go play. So they every year take a bunch of donations to this facility. They call it an orphanage. And it acts a little bit as an orphanage, but also acts kind of as a halfway house. And so there's just a lot of interesting stories here. Some of them are children who are either orphaned because their parents passed away or were abandoned for whatever reason. There's some young women here who either got pregnant very young on or their families just couldn't support them anymore. And a lot of these young women, it gives them an opportunity to have a home base and then they get to go to school, which is really nice. And so we love supporting this organization because it really helps get kids where they need to go, which is school and into jobs and careers. And so it's just a really great opportunity to support the community. And this is one of our recovery nurses. She takes a little Polaroid camera with her every time she goes and she takes their photos and the kids actually love it. And so they get a little souvenir that they get to take home with them. That's really sweet. Or they are home, they get to keep it. Do the next slide. So this is us after our last screening on the first day. And we are all exhausted. But I thought it was a really funny photo because you can tell Dr. Combs, the plastic surgeon, really just wants to meditate and nobody will leave him alone. And then I keep joking that Dr. Williams and Claire, one of our residents, are just too cool for school wearing their sunglasses. But that's us on the last day, just kind of settling in. Next slide. And so after that, we just get to work. So starting on Monday, we all report and we just start hammering out surgeries. We try to get to the center by about 7:15 to 7:30. These are actually a couple of our partners. So this is Lehia. She's in the front. She is a pediatrician in Guatemala and she helps run the Moore Center. And then behind her is Carlos Navas, who I told you is the Guatemalan orthopedic surgeon. And they are both absolutely fantastic. And Lehia brings her daughter. And she's the little tiny surgeon in the middle. And you can see her sitting next to Dr. Combs. And I thought that was a really sweet photo because they're working so seriously on something. Next slide. So this is how the kids come into the OR. It's actually very precious. We let them ride in these little cars and they drive in because how else are you going to get to surgery if you can't drive yourself to surgery? But in that middle picture, you can see one of the anesthesiologists is in the back with a little remote that actually controls the car. So we don't have anybody go on a high-speed car chase, which I'm sure would happen if we gave them control. To the next slide. And so this is all of us getting ready to go into the operating rooms. This is how small the central area is. All the patients come through on that in that little elevator behind us. And there's an elevator, or there's a door that's open. That's the plastics room. And then there's a door on either side of us, the person taking the photo. And those are literally our 3 operating rooms. They're very small. Next one. And then we always have a translator come in with the kids so that, because this is a very emotional and very distraught moment. And so we always want someone speaking to them in their native language, trying to calm them down. And so we always have a translator there to help calm them down. And this is something that we all take very seriously because it's hard and we want to be sympathetic to what they're going through. So this is kind of the hard part of the trip, is when we have to put them to sleep. The next one. And then from then, we're just off to the races. So if you can spy the x-ray in the back, you may recognize it, but this is that DDH kid that I was telling you guys about. And so we're doing the other hip. And so that was our first case on the first day. The next one. We take little breaks throughout the day. So these are the 2 anesthesiologists. We drink a ton of coffee. It's insane. All of our patients bring us coffee because Guatemala is known for it. And so it's actually really sweet. We're all jittery and hyped up by the end of it. And then if you want to know where all these photos are coming from, that's Greta on the left. And she is a professional photographer and artist, and she volunteers her time to take photos for us to use for promotional videos. And I just want to point it out that this is the one photo that Greta did not take and everybody's eyes are closed. So clearly we need her. Let's do the next one. This is one of the kids in recovery, waking up. And I put this in there specifically to let you guys know the only pain medications that we give at the Moore Center are Tylenol and ibuprofen. So all kids, regardless of what surgery they get Tylenol and ibuprofen. And do you know how many people complain about it? Not one. It's really amazing. It kind of makes you wonder, you know, if expectations play a role in it, because these are painful surgeries. And these kids are absolute champs. I mean, it's mind-blowing, especially given the kind of narcotic-centric society that we come from. So it's something to think about. The next slide. So every day we do surgeries all day, and then at the end of the day, we go and we round on all of the patients. So this is just an example of our evening rounds. The whole surgical team meets up with the pediatric team and the overnight team, and we literally walk bedside to bedside. We talk about the surgery that we did, our expectations overnight, and what the plan is for follow-up, so they can start planning what their follow-up schedule is going to be like and who they're going to see when they return. Next slide. And then after we round in the mornings, there's just something about the fiberglass they use in Guatemala. I don't know what it is, but that fiberglass shrinks like 2 sizes after you put it on. So all their casts get really tight. Since we know that, what we end up doing is we split all the casts and we put these spacers in to really kind of open up those casts to give them enough room. So once they're fully hardened and have dried overnight, we go and we wrap over them with fiberglass to seal up that line that we made. And so every day kind of looks the same. Rounding, wrapping, surgery. Rounding, wrapping, surgery. Next slide. And then we're back at it again. The next crop of patients is showing up. We'll do the next slide. And then we operate again. So that's me in the upper extremity room. I know what we're doing. We're actually doing a elbow in that case. And it was a kid who had a optimal treatment of his elbow fracture, and then now his arm is actually angled. And so we're going in and we're making a cut and straightening his arm back out. The next slide. This is the plastics room. I wasn't involved in a lot of the plastics cases, so I don't know a whole lot about what they did, but we did hear different cases that they did. And I know some of them are staged procedures, and so there's kids that come back for kind of repeat injections or reconstructive surgery that they do in different stages. I know that he treats a couple of kids who were unfortunately victims of domestic violence, and their parents felt like they couldn't take care of them for whatever reason. And so there's a couple of kids that their parents threw scalding hot water and burned them significantly, and he does a lot of surgery on them to kind of help release the pressure that's caused by the scar tissue as they grow. And so there's a lot of that. Dr. Combs is absolutely hilarious if anybody gets a chance to meet him. That's his surgical tech, Liz. And the way that Dr. Combs likes to do these trips is he typically meditates for the first couple of days, and he won't join us for any social events just to kind of ground himself and arrive in Guatemala. But what he likes to do is he likes to plant a small lie about Liz at the beginning of the week, and then he slowly lets it grow. And it's usually something very small at first, like, oh, did you know Liz was in a band before she became a surgical tech? And she was not. But then every day he'll add something onto the lie. And so this one progressed to the point that it was like Liz headlined Coachella in 2017 before deciding to go to law school because her dad was a US senator. It's just like this completely ridiculous lie. And so people end up believing him. And so they come up to him to Liz at different stages in the week and going, is your dad a senator? And then she has to go back and say, no, he's lying. But it's funny how the lie just kind of grows throughout the week. It's kind of his little tradition. We'll do the next one. And then you guys may know this lovely lady who is holding down the fort with anesthesia. That's T. She's an AED member who helped us out on the trip, and we loved her. So had to include her in this. Next slide. And it's just day after day, rinse and repeat. So rounding, wrapping, surgery, rounding, wrapping, surgery. And this is us on our surgical rounds. Go ahead and next slide. And then if anybody ever had any any doubts as to what it's like to being followed by a professional photographer for a week, you should try it. You would never realize how pale you are, how poor of posture you have, and how much you do not monitor the way that your face rests when you're not paying attention to it. So there are a lot of unflattering photos of all of us rounding, I can tell you. And go to the next one. A funny little aside is the resident and I, we didn't realize it at the time, but we bought matching scrub caps and we're almost the same size. And then we realized afterwards that we looked almost exactly the same and nobody could tell us apart. And it was a fun little trick that we played on everybody. But my thing was, I, for some reason, just could not remember to take my safety glasses off of my forehead and put them on my eyes. So every single photo of me from that week is of me with my safety glasses on the top. And we figured out that's how you can tell the difference between the two of us. On the last day, I finally remembered to put my safety glasses on and the OR applauded me. So it was a real problem. Go to the next slide. So by the end of the week, I mean, we're just doing this day after day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So by the end of the week, this is what our patients look like. I mean, everybody's just sleeping in the halls and we're exhausted. Go to the next slide. This is what our surgeons look like. So we're all just pretty much losing it. So this is kind of our experience, but I wanted to kind of focus on two patients, and I wanted you to see some kind of before and after pictures so you get an idea of what it looks like to them. And so I have two patients in particular that I wanted to share with you. Go to the next slide. So this is one of our DDH girls. You can see her father there. They were a very sweet family. Her dad was, you can tell, just kind of the silent and stoic type. But he did not put his daughter down once and was just an absolutely wonderful and dedicated caretaker. I think he said about 15 words to us total throughout the whole process, and half of them were "thank you so much." But he was very sweet and very gentle, and you can see him there on screening day on the left. You can see him preoperatively in that family room with his daughter sleeping in his lap, and then you can see him postoperatively. That's a special kind of cast that we put on called a spica cast. And it has that bar across it to reinforce it. And we actually wrap that bar in fiberglass, and it just provides stability to that cast. That cast is going to be on for about 6 weeks. This dad really struck me because his commute to the clinic was 23 hours. And one of the things that we had to take into consideration when we were putting her cast on is a significant portion of the trip is made on scooter. And so we had to make sure that her cast was sturdy enough that he could transport her home on a scooter, and he did. So that's pretty amazing when you think about the hurdles that these families jump through. And then the next slide. This was actually a really emotional case for all of us. This is a sweet boy who, based on the way his leg looks, has an underlying condition of neurofibromatosis, which is kind of an abnormal you have an abnormal way that your body forms connective tissue and bone. And so I think that's very apparent from his x-rays. So this kid has something that's called a pseudarthrosis, and that stands for false joint. And essentially he had a weak spot in his tibia that never really healed and was always open. And so it created a false joint in that it was never stable. And Dr. Navas and Dr. Williams did years worth of different surgical interventions without any significant improvement. You can see the last ditch effort was to put that plate in, which really wasn't helping because he has trouble forming healthy new bone at that fracture site. And you can see how spindly his little fibula is, that little bone next to the tibia. So he was having some pretty severe issues with chronic pain. It was debilitating to the point that he couldn't play. So we actually amputated his leg on this trip. This is not something that we did lightly, and knowing that this was the next step, the Moore Center was actually really crucial in finding psychological resources for this kid. So he and his entire family were able to meet with a psychologist and get formal counseling before we did this procedure. You can see him laying there on that gurney, and that blue wrap is actually his stump. And so that's after we amputated his leg. And that little picture of him smiling, I think it's worth noting, is actually him after the amputation. We asked him how he was doing, and he said he was super thankful because he finally gets to play with his friends. We did not leave him high and dry. He actually came up to Scottish Rite as a pro jump and be a kid and do all those things. So, I mean, these are really that have true profound impacts on their lives. You know, I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and talk about kind of what these trips mean. You can imagine there's just this jumbled up knot of emotion going through a trip like this. You feel everything. You feel happy, you feel emotional, you feel anxious, you feel tired. You know, there's just so many things that you kind of go through on these trips that it's real easy to just kind of focus on one patient at a time and just kind of get through your day in a linear way, just one after the other. But I kind of found that in the chaos, I kept looping back to one specific thing. It would be like chaos, and I would come back and be grounded, and chaos and come back and be grounded. And what I was grounded by wasn't a specific person or a specific surgery, but it was actually a specific place in the hospital. And I want to kind of share that experience with you because I think it speaks a lot to my experience on this trip, but also just kind of who I am as a healthcare provider and why I work in the profession that I work in. So you can go to the next slide. And so that area is actually the family waiting room, which sounds kind of silly, but it's just this tiny room that's at the end of the elevator on the first floor. If you think about it, it's actually a really profound place because you think about the trip as occurring in the operating rooms. It's a surgical trip. Why wouldn't it occur in the operating rooms? But think about it from the other point of view. If you're a patient, you never even see the operating rooms unless you're in them and you're the patient. They don't really exist in reality, but they understand that they're there because nobody ever goes into the upper floor. So if you're a patient, theoretically, this is your experience sitting in the waiting room. It's the area of high anxiety and high stress before you hand off your child to a stranger who does not speak your language, who does not look like you, and who you know is going to cut their skin and change the inherent anatomy of their body. I mean, that's a very scary hurdle to jump over. Next, you have the anxiety-inducing several-hour wait when you're just hoping that your child comes back to you in the condition that you gave them away in. But then it's also the area of extreme relief and happiness when we come down and we say everything went great, everything is fine. So this is a huge room. This is just a juggernaut experience of emotion in this one tiny room. And you can kind of see us in there, but there's one photo that just hits me every time I look at it, and it's seared into my brain. And not only is that photo seared into my brain, but there's 30 or 40 photos, mental images that I took of the patients that we saw. And it's this next photo here. This is one of the moms. You go to the next slide. This is one of the moms for one of Dr. Combs' surgery. And I think if you really look at this photo, there's so many more layers to it than initially hit you. But I want you guys to really, I mean, if you can zoom in on that photo and if you can look at it, I want you to really take some time and look at this woman and just look at her facial expression and her eyes and where they're pointed and the doming of her shoulders and how much tension you can see in those shoulders, even though she literally has a gown on over her clothes. And the way she's holding her hands and the way her feet are tucked together. I mean, she's just the absolute picture of anxiety and apprehension. And I just think this is such a profound photo because if you look at her, I mean, what hasn't she given you? You know, she's given you her time. She's given you an extreme effort to make it to that clinic, and she's about to hand you her child. I mean, what has she not given you? You know, and as a healthcare provider, it's just the two questions I want you to ask yourself is one, what has she given you? And two, what would you give her in return? And the answer for every single one of us was everything. I mean, I would do anything for this woman. And I think that I think that anyone in healthcare kind of identifies with that feeling. It's a reciprocation of the heightened level of anxiety. I'm not worried about the things that she's worried about, but it's this anxiety of wanting to rise to the occasion, of wanting to meet her expectations, of wanting her to feel okay, of wanting to appease her emotions. Because at the end of the day, is there anything more selfless than a mother who would do anything for their child? And so you can't sum up the emotional experience of a trip like this. But if you can really understand this photo and what it's like to stand in that room, I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I stood in that room looking at these families, trying desperately to communicate that their kid was going to be okay, because I was going to do everything that I could to make their kid okay. That is the emotion that you feel on these international trips. And it's really special. And there's not a lot of situations where you get that level of an emotional connection to someone. And it's something that's just really special. Because if you can rise to the occasion, then you can really understand the joy of giving yourself over in service to someone else. And I think that that is essentially the core concept of being a healthcare provider in general. We can go to the next slide. And this is just kind of what happens afterwards. We have a conversation with them. They do kisses goodbye. And then sometimes, despite your very best efforts, they still cry. And you can see in this picture to the right, she hates him. She does not want to go for 1 second. And so it's unfortunate. I mean, it's hard to take a kid away from their mom. And we do everything we can to calm them down, but it's actually a really sweet moment when we get to return them back to them. We can do the next slide. But I just think you can really see it in their faces. In these photos in particular, I included a couple of them, the next couple of slides. But I mean, once you realize what these people, how beautiful and how special and how giving these people are, it's so easy to just fall in love with them. And I think that you see that in all of these photos. These are our recovery nurses. You know, the next slide. And then this is Wanda feeding one of the babies. And the next slide. And then this is Jenna again. He actually was supposed to be in a wheelchair. She kept trying to put him in one. He wouldn't let go of her because he just wanted to hug her. The next slide. And I think that one's really special of Dr. Combs, because at the end of the week, I mean, that's pretty much how we were looking at all of our patients. It's just a pretty profound experience. It's just a really great way to get in touch with why you practice healthcare and what it really means to be that person in someone else's life. It's just a really special moment. The next one. And so these are just the pictures of us packing up, getting ready to leave. This is the anesthesia team, the CRNAs, and then that girl in the front with the hairnet on. Her name's Ray. She did all of our blocks for us. The next one. And this is the plastics room. And so you can see T there, hamming it up for the camera. And the next one. And this is the ortho team. So that's the resident that we went with, and that's my twin. We don't look a lot alike there, but you can imagine if we both covered up our faces with a mask that we look a little bit alike. The next slide. So we are winding down to the end. I put Dr. Williams here to remind myself that I have some announcements and some updates. So our president is joining us for this, in spirit only because he's in the photo. But we had a board meeting where we talked about our upcoming trips. And so we do have a trip planned for fall of 2021. We do have time blocked out, and we have a provisional schedule of who's going to go. There's, of course, the caveat that if at any point it is unsafe for our staff or for the patients, that we will have to cancel. But optimistically, we had a meeting about, what that trip looks like and what the planning looks like. And Lehia, who I showed you a picture of, is actually developing guidelines for running the clinic. And she's been in close contact with the Guatemalan Department of Health. And her protocols are so thorough that the Department of Health has actually started using her guidelines as guidance for coming up with some national recommendations for best practices. So we're really proud of her, and I know that she's doing a lot of really hard and good work in developing those. We had a meeting which was really hard to get through, honestly, because we all sat down and just tried to poke as many holes in the plan as we could. We tried to come up with every reason we could not to have the trip. And one after another, we tried to shoot it down. But at the end of the day, when it came time for roll call and we said, who's going to go? Almost everybody said me. And so it, at this point, looks like it's on. And so we're moving forward with some planning. And I'm just really hopeful and optimistic that's going to happen. We are also planning a spring of 2022 trip. And so hopefully we have 2 trips coming up in the year. Other housekeeping things do I have for you? I think that's pretty much it. So look forward to that. Hopefully we'll be announcing our date later. And then go ahead and go to the next slide. Despite my very best efforts to stay off social media, I'm quickly becoming an influencer for Operation KidDocs. So like and subscribe if you enjoyed this presentation. I'm just teasing. But if you do want to get into contact with us, we do have a website, Operation KidDocs. We do have a Facebook and an Instagram. Our Instagram is very slowly coming along. I literally sat in the surgeon's lounge at Dell Children's Medical Center and gave a presentation to several surgeons about the difference between Instagram posts and Instagram stories and why we should care. So if you would like to see a couple of people learn how to use Instagram or just keep up with our organization, please feel free to follow us. We'd be happy to have you there. Do you guys have any questions for me or anything that I can clarify for you?
Yeah, so I guess we can move along to the questions. We have about 20 minutes. So I'll be reading the questions off the YouTube chat. So if anyone wants to ask questions, I'll be reading through those. But there is a little bit of a delay. So I guess I have a question of my own. How did you personally get involved with Operation KidDocs? How did you stumble across it?
Mm-hmm. So I actually started off doing refugee medicine in San Antonio. So I was one of the student leaders for San Antonio Refugee Health Clinic. And when I started at the practice that I'm in now, I sort of made that known, and I knew that Dr. Williams had done a lot of international medicine work. And so I started hanging around him. And I actually volunteered for the board before I went on the first trip. And I was starting to get involved in some of the fundraising activities, because that's always the hardest part, right, for international medicine, is doing all the behind the scenes work. And I let it be known through kind of offering to help out with those things that I wanted to go on one of these trips. And I was thankful enough, or the organization was gracious enough to accept me and let me volunteer and all that good stuff. So I kind of stepped my way into it. But as far as international medicine goes, I mean, there is such a need, and there's so many different organizations. There's a lot of different ways to approach it.
All right, so Meghana has a question. What would you say is the most challenging or the most difficult part of the trip?
I would say there's a physical component to it. I mean, we are operating for 16 to 18 hours a day, and so that can be difficult. I would say that the physical toll is nothing compared to the emotional toll. Like I said, I mean, you just literally get caught up in every single one of these patients' stories. You kind of leave feeling a little bit almost disoriented. So I would recommend kind of doing what Dr. Combs does, which is just kind of being really mindful of your emotions as you kind of progress throughout the week and doing a little bit of meditation. It really helps kind of ground you. And if you're a frazzled emotional mess, then you're not going to be much help to anybody. And so just keeping yourself physically healthy enough to kind of keep up with the daily rigors of the day, but then also emotionally stable enough to be able to keep taking in the experiences are probably kind of two of the hardest aspects of it.
All right. Sky has a question that I actually know the answer to, but I'll just ask it anyway so that everyone watching the stream can hear from you. but will another AED member be allowed to attend these upcoming trips?
I have absolutely no problem with that. And I would assume that's the answer that you're going to give to.
Okay, and then Emily has a question. How were you able to participate in refugee health? Is it a special program at your PA school?
So it wasn't. How did I get into it? I think a friend told me about it. So the most special thing about schools are like the opportunities are endless. It is whatever you make of it. So that wasn't the only program that I volunteered with. I just sought out as many volunteer opportunities as I could when I first got to PA school. And then I'm sure a lot of you know that kind of the big emphasis is on getting your hands on patients, patient contact hours. At least people who are applying to PA school kind of know that terminology. But when I was in PA school, I just wanted to immerse myself in it. And we were starting to learn physical exam things. And I wanted a place that I could practice those and interact with people and volunteer and kind of figure out what I was interested in. So I volunteered at all of the student-run clinics. Some of them actually didn't accept PA students. They only had medical students, but it's just because they didn't know. And our program, we actually took classes with the medical students. So I was in the medical school classes, literally in the same auditorium. And I would tell them, I was like, I don't understand why you wouldn't accept me when I'm literally taking the same classes that the medical students are taking. And after kind of appealing to them in that way, they were more willing to accept PA students. But I volunteered at San Antonio Refugee Health Clinic. And then I just kind of worked my way up into a student leadership position. And then I also volunteered at something called the Alpha House, which is actually a halfway house for people with drug addiction. And so we did exams on them. And it was mostly women. I think it was a women's only halfway house, although men and women students could volunteer. I also worked with an organization that tried to bring awareness about the transgender community and issues that the transgender community faces, specifically interacting with healthcare providers to our PA class. And so I worked with that organization a lot, but it really just is what you make of it. You just have to kind of find those little niches and those little volunteer opportunities.
All right, so Kyle has a question. What was the most memorable case you've had to work on when you attended one of these trips?
I attend one of these trips. They're also memorable in kind of their own ways. Some of them have a very compelling personal story, but not a super exciting surgery. And then some of them have a super exciting surgery, but not a super exciting personal story. We did have a kid who came in with a foot drop, and we didn't have a great reason for why. And they wanted us to do a procedure to essentially kind of help him lift his foot because his foot kept falling when he would walk. And so they wanted us to do a procedure to kind of tighten up his tendons to help hold his foot so that he could walk more comfortably. And Dr. Williams, to his credit, just kept saying, something's not right here, something's not right here. And so he ended up getting advanced imaging. And that's something that's kind of abnormal because there isn't an MRI machine at the clinic. But like I said, they help set people up with the social services that they need. And so he's absolutely insisted on one. And it turned out the kid actually had a metastatic lesion. And so, I mean, that was kind of one of those moments where you just realize that you absolutely have to put your foot down and do the hard thing, even though it's not the easy thing. And I mean, that's a huge catch on his part. That was something that would not have been found without the MRI and would not have been discovered without him and his experience. So that was definitely a memorable moment for sure.
All right, and then something that Dr. Williams has actually talked to me about very briefly, but I thought I could ask you. I know that you'll have like educational programs set up for like the healthcare providers that work at the Moore Center. So could you like talk a little bit about that and like how like that's going?
Sure. So he actually pairs with one of the surgeons from our clinic, Dr. Kaufman, and they fly down and offer a course about posterior spinal fusions. And so it's actually an educational course that they give. And they give it in English, but they have a real-time translator who translates it in Spanish with a headset. And it's usually a 2 or 3 day course that they offer. And I know that they're hoping to offer another course in conjunction with the spring trip that we're doing. And so that's kind of in the works right now. I don't think anything formal has been planned yet, but last I spoke with him, that was something that we were planning. We also work with the local orthopedic group in Guatemala City. So when we were there, we gave an educational talk about kind of new techniques for doing surgery for supracondylar fractures. And Dr. Gottschalk was the one who gave that talk, but it was over dinner and it was to just registered orthopedic surgeons at a nice restaurant in Guatemala City. That was a fun experience too.
All right, Kyra has a question. How have you seen Operation KidDocs change year by year? How so? Or if not, is there something that you wish could change for the better?
So I've only been in it for about 2 years now. And I would say I can't really speak to what it looked like year to year before, but I know that a lot of the people that are in it have been in it for a long time. And I know that previously they had mostly just physicians on the board. And so we are starting to have a much more varied board. And something that I'm really excited about is we actually added 2 new board members, and one of them is someone that I had nominated. So I'm actually really excited about that addition. But we just added a woman who has worked in the community for a long time and has actually worked in local government. And she has done a lot of international work in creating clean drinking supply for communities that otherwise didn't have it, like fountains and things like that. So we're really excited to have her and see what kind of edge she brings to the table. And then we also just nominated one of our nursing coordinators for the OR, who's going to kind of help take over the supplies aspect of it, since Wanda, who previously managed that, now works in Atlanta. So she still helps us, but it's not local and it's kind of harder to fly her in and help organize the supplies. We have 2 new members, and hopefully they'll bring fresh perspectives on fundraising efforts and community outreach and just name recognition and things like that. So we're looking forward to that for sure.
All right, and then one last question. So y'all spend the majority of like the week that y'all are in Guatemala performing the actual surgeries. So how do y'all prepare the healthcare workers at the Moore Center to like take care of like the follow-up care for your patients?
So most of the follow-up care actually goes through Dr. Navas. And so he's the one, he bounces between the ORs and helps with the surgeries. And then he also sees them. So it's not uncommon for him to stand in that room when we're making follow-up plans. And he'll say things like, oh, that patient will be seen in my clinic in 6 weeks. I'll see them in 2 weeks, things like that. So these patients are all known to him. And follow-up's not an issue for them. We never leave anybody high and dry. And there are a few situations like with that amputation kid where we actually do pro bono work and bring them to the States and set them up with some sort of pro bono resource that we know of. So that's kind of how we help manage them.
All right, awesome. So Megan, thank you so much for coming out today. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Yeah, we know you're super busy, but this was super informative, and I'm sure all of our members really enjoyed it. So in about 10 minutes, we'll be proceeding with the stream. Our fundraising chairs will be presenting some more information. But yeah, thank you so much for coming out, Megan, and we'll see everyone soon.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I genuinely am so grateful to be here.
It's Sky and Zihan.
And we're back to make a special announcement. The fundraising progress over the past hour has been phenomenal. One of the best fundraising hours we've had all year.
It's that time that everyone has been waiting for, matching hour. Every donation you receive over the next hour will be doubled until funds run out.
For this hour specifically, donations up to $25 are being matched. Any donation of $25 or more will still be matched with $25.
So hurry up and make those fundraising asks. If you haven't gotten the chance to access our templates and graphics, scan the QR code at the bottom of the slide to kickstart your fundraising and potentially get double the donations.
Important thing to note, donations received via Venmo to add Texas AED and through your Class C fundraising page both count. If you still have yet to transfer your Venmo totals, now is the time to do it.
As we approach the end of the first night of PIA President, we couldn't be prouder of the work our members at Texas AED have put into fundraising over the past hour. We hope this matching hour encourages you to keep pushing and making an impact on the children of Guatemala.
As always, if you have any questions or concerns, reach out to us at piapresident@texasaed.org. Best of luck to everyone over the next hour. Catch us tomorrow.
Hey everyone, my name is Sia and I'm the Organization Outreach Chair for PIA President 2021. We are so excited for the organizations that will be participating with us over the next few days, and we'd like to take a moment to shout them out. Thank you to Alpha Phi Omega and their presidents Robin Lee and Lucas Best, American Medical Student Association and their president Daniel Shea, American Red Cross Club at UT Austin and their president Jonathan Lee, Architectural Engineering Institute and their president Maddie Collins, Asian Business Students Association and their president Christopher Chen, Beta Theta Pi and their president Alec Bassett, Caduceus and their presidents Jaden Medrano and Alina Jamal, Chi Omega and their president Mary Beth Ratcliffe, Delta Gamma and their president Olivia Campbell, Delta Sigma Phi and their president Blake Bohannon, Engineering Chamber Orchestra and their president Brittany Yebbing, Fiji and their president George Masterson, Global Medical Training and their president Megan Barker, Kappa Rho Pre-Medical Honor Society and their president Ali Norton, Korean Dance Crew and their president Adele Kaminade, Longhorn Swim Club and their president Nathaniel Deegan, One Way South Asian IntraVarsity and their president Ashley Abraham, Phi Chi Theta and their president Nick Verdula, Pre-Optometry Professional Society and their president Yvette Zapata, Society of Women Engineers and their president Zara Venkatraman, Texas Bluebonnets and their president Emma McClaven, Texas Lassos and their president Emma Crane, Texas Lone Stars and their president Reagan Lamb, Texas Pre-Dental Society and their president Avi Patel, Texas Royals and their president Amy Tang, Texas Running Club and their president Catherine Deegan, Texas Thon and their president Hallie Melito, Women in Business Association and their president Sonika Patel, and Women in Medicine and their president Emily Weigert. Whether you donate $3 to @Texas AED or fundraise much more using our provided graphics, you are helping the kids in Guatemala receive free life-saving surgeries. Next, we would like to reveal our incentives for our participating organizations. The top 3 fundraising organizations will get a portion of their fundraising total donated to the philanthropy of their choice. This fundraising total includes both the amount donated to @Texas AED to PI their presidents and the amount personally fundraised for Operation KidDocs. The top 3 overall fundraisers, so the members of the student organizations, will receive one of the following gifts of their choice: 2 rowing dock passes for a free hour each, 2 Amy's ice cream gift certificates, and a free dozen donuts from Voodoo Donuts. Remember, every $3 donated to @Texas AED is a pie purchase to pie your president. If you would like to fundraise your donation, scan the QR code or visit our Linktree on Instagram for resources and Venmo your total to @Texas AED. And don't forget, every $3 donated, you will receive 1 entry to our gift baskets. Our gift basket themes include movie night, houseplant, arts and crafts, charcuterie, fitness, self-care, and baking. To our presidents, don't forget to tag us at @PieAPresident in your pieing videos so you can be featured in our final compilation video prior to our total reveal on Saturday. See y'all tomorrow, and I can't wait to see all the pieing that's about to happen.
My name is Meghana, and I'm the Professor Outreach Chair for PI President 2021. I'm super excited for the next few days. PI President is Texas AED's biggest event of the year, and we look forward to involving the UT community with our efforts to fundraise for Operation KidDocs. One of our biggest contributors from year to year is the UT faculty. We would like to thank the following faculty members for their generous support. From the College of Natural Sciences, we would like to thank Dr. Jan Macart, Dr. Suhan Yang, Dr. Paul Toprak, Dr. Fatima Fakhreddin, Dr. Deborah Hansen, and Dr. Marilyn Felkner. From the School of Nursing and Dell Med School, we would like to thank Dr. Nika Usher and Dr. Yang Lee. From the College of Education, we would like to thank Dr. Chris Brownson. And from the Moody College of Communication, we would like to thank Dr. Sharon Jarvis. Dr. Suhan Yang is a clinical assistant professor with a focus in molecular and biochemical lab techniques. Along with teaching classes, Dr. Yang is also a research educator for the Freshman Research Initiative BioBrickstream. She showed her support for PI President through this next video.
Hello, my name is Suhan Yang, and I am an assistant professor of practice at the University of Texas at Austin, and I am running an FRI stream called BioBricks. This week, Texas AED is hosting PI President 2021 to raise money for Operation KidDocs, an organization that sends doctors to provide pro bono surgeries for children in Guatemala. Today, I will be getting pie by my daughter to show my support for Operation KidDocs.
Hi, my name is Bailey Moon. I'm so excited to see you. I'm going to pie my mom today. You have to see it. All right, you ready?
1, 2, 3. All right, So donate and spread the word so we can help Texas AD reach their fundraising goal. Thank you. Bye.
No, this isn't the end. I'm gonna
Get pied one more time. Okay. Please donate. We truly appreciate all your support. Bye.
We would also like to recognize Dr. Todd Curtis from the College of Liberal Arts. Dr. Curtis teaches courses in ancient medicine and science and is also a practicing physical therapist. In a normal year, PI President takes place in person and the UT student body would have the opportunity to pie the professors in the face at Gregory Gym Plaza. Dr. Curtis has been consistently involved with PI President since the very beginning of our partnership with Operation KidDocs and has received his fair share of pies over the years. This year, Dr. Curtis was more than happy to support our cause despite the challenges we have all faced this past year. Texas AD and the PI President 2021 leadership team would like to thank Dr. Curtis for his continued support to our cause. We are very thankful for all the faculty members who contributed to our cause this year. See you all soon.
Hey everyone, it's Prati again. I just wanted to give everyone a final reminder for the day about what you could potentially win from our gift baskets. Our first basket is a movie night gift basket that consists of popcorn, assorted movie candy, the comfy blanket sweatshirt, and a popcorn maker. Our second basket is the houseplant gift basket that comes with a ceramic plant holder, potting soil, a watering can, a mini succulent, and flower seeds. The third basket is a fitness gift basket that comes with a yoga ball, a yoga mat, a jump rope, and a water bottle. We also have a charcuterie gift basket with a wooden paddleboard, dip bowls, cheese knives, and reusable wine stoppers. Our fifth basket is a self-care basket with another comfy blanket sweatshirt, sheet masks, a clay mask, and a scented candle. Our sixth basket is a baking gift basket with cake pans, a rolling pin, a whisk, and piping tips. Finally, for our seventh gift basket, we have an arts and crafts basket with a sketchbook, a watercolor set, a Prismacolor hand lettering set, and a Prismacolor colored pencil set. Thank you guys so much for following along on the first day of PI President, and we hope to see you back with us tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. where we have an entire day jam-packed with games, fundraising, and pieing. You will get to watch your friends and favorite club presidents get pied in the face, and we would love to see you help us support Operation KidDocs and the children in Guatemala. See y'all in the morning.